Hey guys, welcome to my new segment of New Tech in Auto by the Girls Mechanic team. My name is Joanna Bergen and I'm so excited to be starting these new segments. I will be having different guests on discussing different topics, keeping it fun yet still educational. Welcome to my second episode. Now before we get into it, here are the top 3 major news for BMW this month. BMW is finally kicking off its production for the 7 Series, which includes the i7 all-electric SUV. And BMW's electric vehicle sales nearly doubled from 2021 to 2022. And I don't know if you heard about this, but BMW is starting to charge a subscription fee to use their heated seats that starts at around $18 a month. Are you guys going to start charging monthly subscription for using the turning signals? Because all you BMW drivers on the road, I never see you using them. Now, let's get into it and get our special guest on for today's episode. I'm so excited about today's episode because I'm learning so much from it and I know you guys will too. Justin is a senior sales engineer and he's working at an industrial automation sensor company that works with the largest automotive companies like GM, TMMC, and MAGNA. So he's probably the most passionate guy that I know and most knowledgeable in the automotive field, and we've got matching engineering brains. Thank you so much for being on today.
No problem, my pleasure to be here. I'm excited to do this episode.
Awesome. So we're going to ask Justin a few questions and we're going to be learning more information from him. We're going to start off with what components we're gaining and losing when we're transitioning from internal combustion engine to electric vehicles. We're going to be talking about who are the biggest investors in the automotive field and where are all these billions and billions of dollars going towards. So to start off, I want to ask you, with this entire transition from internal combustion engine to electric vehicles, what are we adding and removing components-wise?
Well, the biggest change obviously from a gas-powered car to an electric car is what's powering your vehicle. So in a gas-powered car, you have a gas tank with gas that obviously gets fed into your engine. Electric car is all coming from the battery. So first thing, we're ripping out all the gas tanks, fuel systems, all the, where you put your gas in your car, and we're replacing that with charging ports, batteries, and then all sorts of electrical components like DC converters, AC converters to make sure that the power is coming into your car properly.
What about the engine?
So obviously a gas motor versus electric motor are two very different things. A gas-powered car actually has a lot more parts. So not only is the engine more complicated, but you have your transmission, your exhaust system. With an electric vehicle, all you're really doing is adding electric motors into it for now.
What about the cooling? So no, we don't use any more coolant, right?
Well, it's different. So I don't know if you ever had your phone on a really hot summer's day. It'll kind of like stop working properly, get really hot, and sometimes an error messages. So electric cars are the same way. There's a lot of money and engineering going into efficient cooling systems.
Right.
So you want to keep your powertrain nice and cool and working properly to maximize your range.
Awesome, that's crazy. So I know that there's about 41 new components added into electric vehicles, but there's also around 100 components like completely removed and eliminated from these electric vehicles. So what's staying the same?
Well, the short answer to that is as much as possible staying the same. So, things like your suspension, chassis, of course, all your interior. There's no real need to change seats, infotainment, windows, stuff like that. I know you work as a test engineer, so you know how expensive it is for manufacturers to roll out new parts, right?
To add a new component, think about probably doubling your testing parts just to use those for tests and make sure everything's working fine. So I totally agree with you. That's going to save them a lot of money and time just to keep components the same if they don't need to change them.
So if you're only really focusing on the powertrain and not changing things possible, you run less risk of things going wrong. I know on your last episode you said Tyler had that wheel that fell off.
Oh yeah, if you haven't seen it, sorry, but check out episode number 1.
So by changing as little things as possible and only focusing on the most important things of electric vehicles, the manufacturers are maximizing their investments and getting to the market the quickest. Just a quick point is Tesla, obviously they paved the way for electric vehicles.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if any of you have been in a Tesla before, but they're great with their powertrain, but the build quality leaves a lot to be desired. So
You can tell we're the biggest Tesla fans here.
Shout out to Elon though, did a great job.
Awesome. Okay, so I've been reading a lot of news about investments and billions of dollars. I think around like over 14 billion going into the production of electric vehicles. just in Ontario because they want to become the leader in developing these electric vehicles. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, again, $14 billion is a lot of money just for Ontario, and that's not even considering the rest of the world. So Ontario actually is envisioning itself to be the first end-to-end EV supply chain.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so what that means is we want to produce as many EV components in Ontario as possible to obviously maximize the investments, but so we're not running into supply chain issues.
Right.
So I don't know if you've heard, or for the viewers, we're actually having a current supply chain issue in the world. It's not only groceries and stuff like that we see every day, but in the manufacturing industry, we're having a hard time getting parts from different countries.
Like the microchips.
Exactly, like the microchips. So
that was a disaster.
Oh man, crazy. Like so even recently too, like China going into lockdown, a lot of our automotive facilities here weren't getting parts, which means we can't produce the cars. So it got so bad at one point that Ford was producing full vehicles, just not putting the microchips in them, so the computers, and had parking lots with thousands of vehicles just sitting there waiting for parts from China to come. So you can imagine by having everything built in Ontario, we're mitigating the risks of supply chain issues. Yeah.
That's awesome. So with all these billions and billions of dollars, where is the money going towards?
Yeah, so where do you think in Ontario, what do we need to be building to have a good EV supply chain? What are the components?
Batteries.
Batteries, of course.
And good ones, because we have cold weather and the efficiency will drop. I also talked about this in episode 1, so check it out. Charging stations. Charging stations,
yeah.
And electric motors.
Electric motors. So of course, yeah, everything related to the power of the EV power.
Right.
But one thing that's commonly missed is battery recycling infrastructure.
I never even thought about
so
that.
you got to think it's not a secret that batteries aren't great for the environment, and with the rising concerns with environmental health, if you're upping your production and your scaling of electric vehicles and batteries, you also got to invest into, well, what's the end of life cycle looking like for these vehicles, battery recycling technology and infrastructure.
That's awesome. So who's making all these investments? That's a lot of money.
Yeah, so when we're talking big numbers, we're talking big companies. So the real big highlight one for Ontario right now, which is super exciting, got announced a few months ago, was you're familiar with LG, Shines?
Yeah.
And then Stellantis, Stellantis, right? Yes. So for the viewers who don't know, Stellantis is a multinational automotive company. So it's just like a combination of brands like Fiat Chrysler, Dodge, Maserati, Alfa Romeo, stuff like that. So they're investing $5 billion.
More billions.
Billion with a B, into a facility in Windsor. So it's going to be a state-of-the-art battery manufacturing.
Wow.
So just a side note on that. Of course, when we're talking electric vehicles, Tesla is going to come up a lot.
Yes.
So working in the industry, Tesla again paved the way for manufacturing supply chain.
Yeah.
And what was evident very quickly was getting the battery infrastructure set is the most important thing.
We don't have a lot of charging stations here.
No, we don't. And then all the electric vehicles are going to need batteries. So getting that investment is probably the most pivotal. So that's why most money is going more towards the battery technology.
Yeah.
And as you said, in Canada it gets cold. We need to make sure the batteries, we're producing a lot of them, we're producing good ones.
I've heard about the F-150 and you were telling me something about that.
Yep, so the F-150 is actually launching a new all-electric version. And the demand for it has been so high that MAGNA, a Canadian auto parts manufacturer, has built a dedicated facility in Chatham. Yeah, so Chatham is in Western Ontario between Windsor and London. And the facility is just for battery trays for this new F-150.
That's crazy. So I don't know if you've heard about the F-150. It's the #1 sold vehicle in North America, and they're making about 1 million of them a year. And now because they're making the all-electric version, it's actually sold out, and there's a 2-year wait list for it.
Yeah, so all the country boys are going electric, right?
That's insane. So tell me more about who else is investing and where is it? Well, we've talked about where it's going towards, but who else is investing?
Yeah, so not only are we building new facilities, like the new battery facilities, of course, but what we're doing is we're also retooling current facilities to change into making EV.
Okay, what does retooling mean?
Yep, so imagine if you have a factory, so let's say another B come in, so GM invested about $1 billion into the Cami facility.
Can I get just like $1 million of that?
No, you're in the right industry. The Cami facility used to produce, or is currently producing until like end of this quarter or something, the Chevy Equinox, which is a gas-powered SUV, and they're retooling, which means essentially rather than tearing down and rebuilding the building, you're building a new building. You use your current infrastructure, rip out all the automation, so the robots, the conveyors and stuff like that, and you put in new lines that are dedicated for the new vehicle. And the new vehicle is the BrightDrop EV600, which is GM's new electric delivery van. So I mean, of course, with all,
That's awesome.
Amazon and the delivery service and logistics industry, GM wants to get ahead and be the go-to EV van for delivery
It's
services.
doing a good job so far.
Oh yeah, well, $1 billion is a lot of money, so they better produce some good vehicles.
Yeah. So speaking of all these new facilities popping up, that means more jobs for people, which is amazing, right?
Yeah. No,
Got, like what, all these western sites, now there's not a lot of people there, but now there's going to be a lot more. I think with automation, we were talking about it. You guys, these robots taking over jobs, you don't have to worry about that when it comes to the automotive field.
Yeah. Well, with all the money getting invested in Ontario, not only is it going to be good for our economy, getting these massive numbers of billions getting invested, but we're also producing more jobs.
That's
so
awesome.
for those of you who didn't know, Ontario's actually main industry is manufacturing, and especially automotive manufacturing.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's not common knowledge for some reason. So that's why we're attracting so much investment, and hopefully it's really good for our economy and makes Ontario just better.
That's amazing. Well, thank you, Justin, for all this news. I
problem.
learned so much. So before we exit this episode, I've got some fun questions for Justin to answer here. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So would you rather drive behind a truck or a slow driver?
I'm gonna say slow driver because trucks are slow anyway usually, and I drive a GTI, which is a smaller car. And when you're stuck behind a truck, you can't see anything, so you don't know even when your exit's coming.
And the rocks.
Oh man, I don't know if you've ever been driving on the highway and you get a bang on the windshield, and you think your light flashed for your eyes and your windshield's cracked. Yeah, not fun.
I thought about it at first, and I was like, maybe the aerodynamics will help push the car, so I will save gas, but...
Yeah, a cracked windshield is more expensive than the tank of gas, so probably best not to drive behind construction vehicles. Yeah.
So second question, would you rather get an electric vehicle or an internal combustion engine?
I mean, we just spent like 10 minutes talking about how great EV is, but my heart, I'm old school. I love my internal combustion engines. And
what's your dream car?
Ferrari F40.
Oh, okay. Our last question for today's episode. Would you rather drive for hours without music or without AC on a hot day?
I mean, I drive a lot for my job, like visiting all these facilities.
Yeah.
So I think I'd rather man up and deal without AC for a little bit because being on the road with just in silence, you gotta get your music, podcast, whatever.
Okay.
You could always roll windows down, right?
That's awesome. All right, well, thank you so much again for being on today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Bye.